Hey, if you got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition, Home Gadget Geeks, Thursday night. It's December 8th. It's 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone. If you've got this any other time than that, you've got the recorded version on YouTube, and that's okay. Just hang tight. We'll get started. Well, okay, we're just going to goof around the whole time, but stay with us. We'll be here. A bunch of you guys checking in chat. I saw Alex and Ryan, Tony, Brian, Joe. Ken was out there a little bit earlier. Kyle as well. Thanks for popping out tonight, guys. I've got Dave McCabe back, and it's always good to hang out with you, Dave. Thanks for saying yes.
Thanks. You bet.
Good.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the. So I go to YouTube for the live chat, right? And then pause it.
Yeah. You want to, or just you can pop the chat out. Do you need the link for it?
Okay, so
easier just to pop the chat out.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe, you're right. A little old school a home service show in the house tonight. We're kind of going back in time to it. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of the show. So there's one of the reasons I have Dave on tonight. So if you are joining us for the very first time, thanks for coming out, and stay around. A little bit of chat. Maybe not your typical how-to show. Maybe not how-to at all. So appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Dave, I think we got a lot to do. So I think let's just kick this thing off, dispense with the pleasantries, and get going.
Well, where's the chat? I
go
popped
to
YouTube, but I don't see anybody.
Yes. Are you? So chat should be below it or to the side of it. If you're,
I'm on live. I'm on
you're on the live site. So go to the YouTube, click on show it on YouTube. There's a little button that'll say play on YouTube, and if you click on that, then the chat room
I don't know
is
that
on.
That worked. Okay.
Yeah.
The link on the bottom didn't. There we go.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was just the chat was empty. The video came up. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it takes. Google's doing something weird where sometimes it takes.
Imagine that.
Up to a full minute for that chat room to appear.
Okay. I just thought I did something wrong.
Yeah, no, it's kind of maddening, especially when you're trying to get to it fast. You're like,
get to it fast.
Like, hey, where is this thing? All right, let me get a little.
Ready to go. Yeah, I got my water.
Okay. Let's see.
Got my phone. Got my water.
Get my notes up. Okay, here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 555, recorded on December 8th, 2022. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a blustery and kind of a snowy, well, not quite yet, but it's probably getting there, Bellevue, Nebraska. And, of course, we'll post the show with some world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. Big thanks to Mike Weger, joined us last week. Every time I say Mike is back, some people think it means he's back. No, he's just back for the week, but we'll get him again in January and February, see if we can get some days a little easier. He has the same problem as everybody else does. His kids get a little older, they get a little harder, and then it gets harder to podcast every week, but it's always good to have him back. Mike, thanks for joining us. Dave McCabe is with me, and Dave, welcome back. Great to have you.
It's nice to be back, Jim. Thanks for calling. Let me come in.
Well, couple things tonight. One, it's the 11th anniversary of Home Gadget Geeks, which we've typically brought back. I'd get Uyghur, I'd get Christian, or I'd get some of those guys. A lot has been going on in your world, and the timing just worked out well. To as kind of a Christmas / I'll say anniversary present you made for me, and look at the screen here. Let me make my screen a little bit bigger for this, just so you guys can see that. So this is our album art here at Home Gadget Geeks, and Dave made this. We're going to talk a little bit about how he did it in a little bit, but on a CNC machine. Dave, this might be one of the most meaningful gifts I've gotten in a while.
That's awesome.
From somebody.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it was super cool. Give a little rundown. What put this together? How'd you do this?
Okay, so a year ago, I got into CNCing, and it just we'll talk about it later. But I mean, the steps. So that's a piece of MDF, that you're holding there. I mean, there's nothing special about that. You can get it at any Home Depot or Lowe's, 1/2 inch MDF. And tried to color match your paint as best I could. I tried to sneak your logo from you, and I combed your site, and I could not find a high-res logo. You had them all res down for your website. And so finally I just texted you, hey, send me a logo. And so I loaded up into some design software and converted into some a vectored graphic, and the CNC. Well, it doesn't take it from there. There's a lot of steps, Jim. There's a lot of steps to this thing. You have to tell it the tool paths and how to run, what bits to use, how fast to run, and obviously where to run, and then you choose how you want to do it. Like I painted your color, and then I carved out everything and then painted white, and then I left your glasses as a relief, and then I hand painted that. And
I wish folks you can kind of see, as you look
there's
at that,
depth to it.
There's definitely depth on that, and of course those black glasses are raised on the wood, and the Home Gadget Geeks is cut into it with the logo. It's spectacular. I mean, for those who are just on audio, you should come over to the video. And I'd actually say the color is truer to what I wanted than even what we're seeing on the screen. I think this is the more truer color to what I was kind of looking for, what I had the designer doing. So thanks for doing that. Dave, of course, if you're just joining, maybe you're a new listener to Home Gadget Geeks, not too many of you, but a few of you maybe. Dave was the longtime host of Home Server Show and really got me podcasting. You're the reason that Home Gadget Geeks even existed or even exists. It's still out there after 555 episodes, but a lot of Home Server Show that changed into Reset. We're going to talk here at the end of the show about Home Server Show forums, but which have really kind of lasted a lot longer than maybe I thought they would. But catch us up with you. What's keeping you busy these days? I know the kids are in sports and a lot of things are going on, but give us the 3-minute catch up on you.
Oh goodness. Just a whole lot of life as you know it. And when the kids get older, things change. You participate differently, sports, academics, and a lot of volunteering. The school always needs help volunteering, and I don't remember my parents doing this much.
No,
back in our days, they just sent you to school. They didn't even, And now, my kids, like both of my kids are in honors classes that just blow me away. I mean, today, my 15-year-old came home with these formulas for figuring out rafters and joists and how much of the weight downward and what they have to figure out in order to hang joists in an engineering fashion. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, get that away from me. It's nuts.
Yeah. Our kids they had to build a bridge, and then they weighted the bridge. They had to build it out of these materials, and they weighted it, and it was the contest to who could hold the most. Mine would have broke on the first try.
Well, no, we learned the 3 types of bridges, suspension and stuff. That's all we did. Now they're doing the formulas for, what are the correct trusses you should pick for this span, for this weight load. It's like, it's beyond me. So doing that, I've started, I've had a photography business for the last couple of years, videography. I do that a lot. And COVID got me out into the garage tinkering, and found the old table saw, dusted it off, and just went from there, Jim. It just literally, I made something, sold it, bought a new tool, made another thing, sold it, bought a new tool, until I finally came to what I had in mind all along. And that was to mix this love I have of crafting and woodworking into my love of computers. I mean, I still sit at one daily, and I love, tinkering with graphic design programs. And now I get to send that program to a machine, load up some wood, and make sawdust.
Mm-hmm. Did you, like, we had you on about a year ago, I think, and we were talking a little bit about that kind of the results of that and some of the things that you were doing, some of the things that you're creating. I was looking back at a Facebook conversation between you and I think back in the spring, maybe. And
Okay.
I had seen some, I think they were flight, uh,
Mm.
like you'd put a beer flight on, where if
Yeah.
you go to a restaurant, and we were looking at making some of those here at the house we had bought a bunch of shot glasses to do
Hmm.
like tastings with, and we
Hmm.
wanted some, and so I was asking you some questions about that. Did you pick up a new CNC machine to do this? Is this, and then when you think about, are those advancing? You think, I mean, CNC is not necessarily new,
No,
but
not at all.
it does seem like, is that an area where, as computers get faster, as technology gets better, are they including that in with their upgrades and such?
Absolutely. The hobbyist market, and that's where I'm at. I mean, this is a hobbyist machine, is growing leaps and bounds over.
What what do you have? What kind of machine do you have?
I have a Shapeoko by a company called Carbide 3D, and I have last year's model. They have a new model which is just phenomenal, but um, I can carve like a 33 by 40 inch, I think. I never used the entire thing, but I bought the biggest one I could get. And yeah, it's amazing what they can do. The problem is you get it, you put it together and it just sits there, and it's literally like the computers of old. They don't do anything until you tell them to do something.
Right.
The software is yourself and your ideas and projects and whatever you can, get out. You have to extract out of it. It's not you don't just throw wood into it, hit a button and pull out, shelving. It just doesn't work that way, but you can most certainly buy, or create that.
With 3D printers, there was a whole community that came up around those where you could kind of download the plans and some of those kinds of things. Does that exist in the CNC community? Can you do a similar kind of thing?
That exists. Uh, it's amazing how much it exists. In fact, I started. I I have more success selling CNC programs
Mm.
than I do physical goods. I have an entire Etsy store, like the beer flight that you're talking about.
Mhm.
One of my best sellers are drinking things made out of wood, shot glass flights. Uh, right now, I sell uh, beer openers.
Mm.
Like you can buy the piece of metal that you just put two screws into a chunk of wood and you got a beer opener. Well, I sell those on the CNC. So there's a program that comes with my specific CNC, and people get it and they're just lost.
Mm.
You can give them a piece of wood and they can make you a nightstand, but you put them in front of that screen with some 3D software and you know it's it's hard.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they start searching and then they run across my stuff and they're like, oh, well, I could make that. I can do
Mhm.
that. And so that's one of the things I do is I try to give people instant success. Like I give them the code, the tool path, just take a piece of wood, the size I tell you, strap it to your machine and hit go. And then I give them page after page of notes. And I've had a whole lot of success doing that. I have an Etsy store of all things.
Yeah, how would I find the Etsy store if I was to,
I
and
think
this is what I
it's
think got us started in the conversation as I
yeah.
saw this Etsy design up. But how do I get to it?
I think it's David McCabe Woodworks.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we can put some in your show
Yeah,
notes
I'll
as
put some
well.
links. Yeah, yeah. And you sent me, when you sent me the board here, you sent me some
Yeah.
stickers. Yeah, talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, I have I should be better at this, Jim, but I have a new website called warpedboards.com. And it literally, all it does is forward you to my Square checkout site, right? So I use the little Square. I don't know if you've seen that, Jim. You go to, a craft fair and they give you the little
Mhm.
white thing and you tap it
Mhm.
and you're good to go, right? I have one of those. Everybody who sells something gets something like that, and they also give you a little website, and I can link some of my wares on there. So I haven't really gotten into the whole e-commerce thing. I like how Etsy handles it, except if I put a physical item on my Etsy store, it has to compete with all of these others. Like, there's so many people selling out there. You have to have an extreme niche, and I do in my digital files. So I thought, I'm just going to sell these for a while, and then I'll try physical items and be like a shipping maker. And I have one product on my Etsy store that's actually a physical item. So it's confusing. So I have to figure this out. I don't know, because you look at all the photos of my stuff, and one's a digital item, one's a physical item. And you have to really get all that straight, because you don't want to confuse people.
If I wanted to get in, so I saw these, these flight boards, and I was like, because we were thinking about at the time, and we're still kind of doing this. We were doing a lot of bourbon tastings. So kids would come over, everybody bring a bottle. We were doing tastings.
Your Karn, what do you call them? Your Karn glasses. I've bought and sold a ton of those with the boards. Literally, Jim, you could do this yourself. Go get a chunk of wood out of your garage.
Well, I have some cedar. Actually, I have some cedar boards that I bought to put fish on in the grill that actually would make really nice.
Yeah, you're golden.
Right?
Grab that. They make a drill bit called a Forstner bit. I have to say that it's a Forstner bit. But they're very large. You can get them an inch. You can get them 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and just measure what you need, and then just drop a hole into that board, and boom, you're done.
Yeah. Well, but that's not as exciting as throwing it on a CNC.
It's not. And if you'd like to go to David McCabe Woodworks, I've got one out there for $60 shipped to you. It comes with a bowl for your limes or whatever you want to put in it, and it also comes with 4 shot glasses. It's a holiday item, Jim.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know that was going to be available on this. Not that well, but if I wanted to do this, like, what's the machine costs now? If I wanted to get into this and get my own CNC.
There are a lot of them. There are a lot, and you don't have to get the biggest one out there. Carbide 3D makes a desktop CNC that actually is closed up and has a little cover. Now, it's going to make small items. So you kind of have to know what you want to make. If you want to make an Adirondack chair, well, you're not going to be very, you're not going to make it with your desktop CNC. If you want to get the big ones, then you're going to need, you're going to have to, some people put them in their offices, but most guys are working out of their basements, out of their garages. You're going to get dust everywhere. This thing will sling dust like mad, but you can get into this hobby for $1,500. And that's it. You're going to have to supply a laptop to drive it. Some of them have a touch screen computer built into them. But there's a couple of companies out there that make really good CNCs.
But it would allow me, so we're on your page. We're on your Etsy page. It would allow me to put some of these these are some cool looking flight some letter tables, some charcuterie boards, right? All those things, all those kinds of things. A fairly standard CNC would allow me to do something like that.
Oh yeah. Jim, everything I have on my site right there is very simple, really practical carves. I do, like you're looking at, so you can tell it's $4.99 Carbide Create.
$4.99 for the plan, right? Which is super
plan.
Dude, $5 to get me up and running and creating this thing? Are you kidding?
It says download and carve today. I try to make it simple for folks, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the photos of that, this is my design. It's on a piece of walnut, a beautiful, gorgeous piece of walnut. It's got curved sides. which are hard to create geometrically if you're not used to it. You can see, I told you I prototyped your carve of your sign, but you can see in that photo there how many times I test this before I will sell it. I test a lot, and those are 2x4s.
Mm.
Those are 2x4s. That's
How
just
long, like a test cut like this, how long does it take the CNC to do this?
this cut right here, Jim, is minutes,
Oh,
maybe
okay.
10 or 11 minutes.
Satisfying to watch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also scary. I mean, because you program it, you tell it where the top of your board is, right? And then you have to tell it where to start, what your XY origin is. And then you turn the thing on, and that thing, it moves independently and starts diving into your wood and moving. You can make a whole lot of mistakes really quickly. And I have. You learn by your mistakes. So
yeah. Yeah, no, that's super cool. I would do you find like what's the hardest part is it just knowing how to come up with the plans? Is that really the hardest part on this? I mean, as you were learning this, the learning curve on this thing, what's the hardest part of it?
for me,
Yeah.
selling.
Oh.
I can go out into my garage and I can create something every day. In fact, if you look around my house, there's stuff everywhere, Jim. It's everywhere. There's charcuterie boards, cheese boards, cutting boards, trays. I have a valet tray by my bedside. I have phone stands. I make tons of stuff. I'm just a horrible salesman. I don't want to be your Saturday craft fair kind of guy sitting in a bag chair, drinking coffee from a thermos, hoping that you stop by my little shanty and buy something. That's just not who I am. I love to create. I love to build. So that part has been the hardest part for me.
Yeah.
Especially with these little, like, I don't know. They're knick-knacky items, right? Although my drinkware sells the best.
Oh,
so
sure.
that's where I've kind of okay, let's focus here.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So
have you done much in the way of so these boards lend themselves to a lot of unique where you're gluing boards together or laminating them together to get different textures. Or have you gotten also into that kind of the pre-work to get the board the way you want it to the way you want it to look?
well, see, now you're getting to what I enjoy. My love, right, is to go out into the sticks of Indiana and talk to a farmer who has a stack of lumber from a couple of trees, and buy rough cut lumber and bring it home and mill that baby down to a perfect board and then create something out of it. And I enjoy doing that. And I actually enjoy finding ugly boards. I can take something with a knot in it and just sit it in front of me and just stare at it and like, what does that need to be? And just incorporate the ugliness and make it something beautiful out of it. So I enjoy doing that too. But yeah, milling lumber it's fantastic. I love it.
Do you have a bandsaw? So are you milling your own? Did you get a bandsaw or are you doing it that way?
I have, so actually I have a planer, joiner, bandsaw, table saw, and my crosscut saw. What else do I have? Everything else, router table, everything you need to make furniture. I have. It's all sitting out there. So
how big, what kind of bandsaw do you have? How big is it?
I started with a small one. When I was shopping for my bandsaw, we were having COVID issues where you just could not get hard woodworking tools. So I ended up buying a Rikon 10-inch, and I can do just about anything with that. The problem is it doesn't have height from table to blade is 5 inches. So I can't run a big board in there and split it into 2 boards and butterfly that open, which I would like to do. But
yeah, nice.
I enjoy, I feel like I'm really good at jointing a flat face, jointing a side, ripping it at the table saw, and creating a square piece of lumber at that point right there.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't have the patience for that. I'd rather just buy it from you.
You can absolutely just buy it from someone. And you can actually buy flat boards from people too.
No, right on. You can get it that way. And I actually enjoy, like, I enjoy watching people create these things on YouTube. I mean, that's kind of there's tons out there. I'm sure you watch many of them, but for me, I mean, yeah, I'd love to have the finished product, but it's almost more enjoyable to watch their talent make this in a way that's beautiful. And I just go, oh, you know what? That was actually super satisfying just to watch them.
Oh yeah.
I know you enjoy the process, but I don't have the patience for it.
No, there's tons of YouTube out there of people just making beautiful items. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. What do you think? What advice would you give anybody if they were thinking of kind of getting into this? They wanted to do something like this. What kind of advice would you give them about getting started? What have you learned that you'd like to pass on to somebody else?
I mean, you can tell someone to start at YouTube easily, but you and I both know that, editing film is your best friend, and it's not always as easy as it looks. It's a difficult process. Many people buy into these systems and fail, and it's easy to fail very quickly with a lot of money. My machine it was like $3,200, and I've probably put thousands into it post. And so it's something that you should probably seek out a makerspace in your local area. I mean, I have one 10 minutes from me where I can get a full 4x8 CNC, and I can throw a sheet of plywood on it, and I can cut an Adirondack chair. I keep coming back to that, but that's very popular to do. And you can use all of the tools in these maker spaces, and they're very popular these days. Days have changed where you don't just find a grumpy old man and ask if, he can cut this for you.
Yeah.
There's entire spaces full of brand new tools just out there waiting, and most of the time they're run by your county. And it's really a neat place. They have CNCs, they have laser printers, they've got all the tools that you need.
Yeah, our local community college has a space like this.
Yes. And I said laser printers. I meant 3D printers. If you have something, you go to Thingiverse and you're like, I need this little thing for my, I don't know, whatever, my gate, and just go print it.
Could I take your plan? Could I get the wood to your specifications, take your plan, go to my local community college, and expect to make something there?
Oh, you absolutely could.
Is that realistic?
You absolutely could. Now, you would have to use my software and interface with your own laptop, and you'd have to see if they would let you do that. And they may have, most of the time, they have really high dollar software, but there's always someone.
So I'd want to check on that, maybe talk with them and say, hey, I've got this plan. What do I need to bring this in? And I think there's a fee. I think I pay some kind of fee to the students get it for free, but I think I can I can get access to it with a fee of some kind. But then I could crank out. I could take a plan like yours and crank out some of these products.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I might have to give that a try, because it would. I got to do more of these things where I don't have to own the equipment.
Oh yeah.
And
you don't have to.
Yeah.
There's memberships to these maker spaces, and I see people pulling up with carts of wood all the time.
Yeah.
And they just go and they just rent they make sure a machine's available and they do their work and
Yeah.
they go home with the thing.
The great experience would be to go in, plug it in, put the wood in there, watch it make it perfectly, and then go home with a perfect product,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I just want to watch it. I don't want to do okay, tweak this, tweak that. Oh, what about this bit? Whatever. No, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to watch it. Like, or I could probably just drive to your place. That might be
Just come on over. I
I
guarantee you I've got 10 of those things laying around here somewhere.
I could just drive out to your place, bring some wood. We could spend the weekend drinking beers
Right.
And messing around on the CNC. Maybe that's the right way to do it. Anything else you'd add? I want to shift a little bit, but anything else you'd add to that? Thinking about listeners and what
No, just I mean, everybody knows where I'm at on Twitter. You got a question, just let me know.
Yeah, it'd be good. Sounds like you're enjoying it. I mean, it sounds like you really enjoy and again, thanks for the logo block, but it sounds like you're really enjoying it.
I do. I enjoy, actually, CNC is like another tool. It's like, yeah, I have a bandsaw, but I have a CNC. And when I need it, I cut something with it. Like I need a circle and a board. Yeah, I can get my jigsaw out, but why not make the circle perfect?
Yeah.
With a CNC in 5 seconds. I can draw that, send it to it, and cut it, and I'm done.
So it's that easy. I mean, once you get good at it, it's easy enough that you could make that cut pretty fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've made custom shims out of some very thin material, with that CNC, just by cutting it out. It's very simple. But my love, Jim, I like to build furniture. I like to build an object.
Yeah.
And I've made desks and tables and in different things. And but then I find out, I told you I'm a horrible salesman, but I found out what sells. And that's how I kind of further my progress. Outdoor furniture in Indiana is super popular. And I make it and it flies out the door. And then I sell a few of them. And then I'm like, what saw do I want next?
Yeah. Right.
What piece of gear? That's how I paid for the CNC. Well, a little bit of Bitcoin, but
right. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool that you're enjoying it. I think it's, finding those hobbies are super important of things that you really enjoy to do. I mean, if you can do it and make a little cash in the process, do it to enjoy it, and then people also enjoy it. That's another great way to get things done. So I've been on the other end of it, where I've been doing a lot of cutting and splitting of wood and stacking, and I'm finding that, we built a big fire pit last summer, and we're doing big fires, and I enjoy that part as well. I didn't think splitting wood would be that satisfying, but
it does have a great sound to it.
There's something about it. Yeah, there's something about it that just
smell in the air.
I'd go out and be like, okay, I'm going to spend half an hour splitting some wood, and then I'll be done. And then half an hour, I'm like, well, let me just do one more. Let me just do one more. And then 2 hours later, and my hands are sore and my body's sore, but it's such a great feeling to look at the stack and you're like, oh, there's something satisfying about that wood coming apart. And, I was always better at destruction than I am at construction.
Yeah. Cause I'm sitting there looking at one of those logs going, man, that's pretty wide. I could really, I could turn that into something.
Yeah, well, we cut down a mulberry tree, and I was and split it and stacked it, and that super wet wood to begin with, and but when we split that and it sat in the sun for a couple weeks, it browned up into this gorgeous, almost like walnut kind of color, and I thought, oh, that would be good, man. That you could. It doesn't mulberry doesn't grow very straight. So you don't get very, long pieces on it, but yeah, it got me thinking like, oh, okay, maybe, but I like wrecking it more than I like building it. So or burning it, love burn. Speaking of burning, maybe it's too early. Maybe it's too early to use that joke, but you've been like, listen, long time Home Server Show. For those that don't know, we did Home Server Show for a lot of years. That you shut that down 4 or 5 years ago, transitioned into Reset. That's gone on pause for a while. Whenever I ask you, well, let me ask you this question: will you ever come back to podcasting? What would bring you back? What would bring you back to podcasting, Dave? What would get you podcasting?
I mean, It would have to be something that I enjoyed, that I was into on at least a weekly basis, right?
Yeah.
Like I could not jump into a smart home
Mm,
podcast.
yeah.
Like, hey Dave,
Yeah.
let's make a smart home podcast. I'm like, no, no. My smart home is when the batteries run out of something. Yeah, I'm probably throwing it away. That's where
Yeah.
my smart home has gone.
Yeah.
But it would have to be something I'm definitely into and I'm involved with. And then someone says, "Hey, I'll do all the back end work." I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
in.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sold.
Yeah. Well, you did the back end work for a lot of years, right? I
I
mean, that
did.
you did the heavy lifting on everything. I was the joker who got to come along on Home Service Show and just hang out, just show up. You did all the work, right? You also did all the work on the forums, and I think the forums were actually probably more successful than the show in the end when we think about engagement and we think about numbers and that's been around a long time. You're gonna close the doors to Home Service Show
Yeah,
forums,
the
right?
lights
Coming up
turn
here.
off, I think the 15th or the 16th of this month.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
And I I'm really not here or there on it.
Okay, all right.
It's
Yeah,
it's been something that has dwindled because I haven't put effort into it. I mean, it's
yeah,
something you have to create, you have to engage, you have to keep it up to date, you have to do reviews and posts, and you have to get your community involved. And it's just not something I've been interested in doing. I just kind of let it roll. And then it just evolved into kind of an archive with questions here and there. It's a great archive.
yeah, yeah,
But as it sits, it just, all it does is cost me money and time.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't want anything to go wrong, and I don't want it to get hacked or something crazy. And the money that I pay to host it and to do the security and the domain upkeep, DNS and email, I have to pay for email. That's just not where I'm headed, Jim. If I was
yeah,
like, I
yeah,
had a brand new website that I was like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this, I would keep it, and I would keep my server. I have a entire server rented in, I think it's in Texas somewhere. It's probably in Irving at the level 3 facility there or something.
mm,
And I would keep it going, but it's just not my thing anymore, Jim.
yeah,
I, I think the time has come. I knew when Home Server Show had come. I did. I knew it. I didn't know when it happened to me on Reset. It was during COVID. And you think, well, that's the perfect time to podcast. I'm just like, I don't want a podcast.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
feeling it.
yeah,
And
right,
then I got you. I was like, Jim, I'm going to relaunch Reset.
yeah,
I
yeah,
re- I recorded an episode with Richard Gunther and Ant
hmm
Pruitt. I had those in the can, and I was going to lead with you, and I was going to publish there too. And then you and I did it, and I published it, and I was just like, no, I
hmm
don't want to do this. I
So
never,
it's my fault. It's my fault that reset.
no,
Is
it's
that what you're
just,
saying? No, I'm just kidding.
it was just the realization, sometimes you go to that, you get back with your old girlfriend and you just look across the room. You're like, man, I don't want to do this. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but I'm out of here.
it's definitely you, not me,
It's
right?
yeah, it's not you, it's me. This time it's
Well,
you.
yeah, no, well, I think, and I guess I want to ask you, this a lot of the listeners to this show also were a part of Home Service Show,
Mhm.
listen to Reset, they've come to meetups that you and I have done, mostly you. They've been a part of the community. And I mean, it was a sad day when you closed down Home Service Show. You launched Reset at the one of the last meetups that we did.
Mhm.
Um, what do you the world's changed in this area, and I felt it too. I mean, I've struggled with Home Gadget Geeks in a lot of ways because the market has gone so how to. It's gone so different than what we used to do with community here. Now, we still get a decent. I mean, I get 400 to 600 downloads on Home Gadget Geeks. It still kind of works. It's enough. Our Discord community is awesome, and it's just enough. It's not too much. It's just enough, right? I kind of like what we've built here, so I kind of keep going with it. But how do you think the world's changed? Like, what is that change that you think has taken place that makes it a little different today, where maybe it's not as fun as it used to be?
Well, I mean, it definitely changes. People move on, people age, and I'm not getting younger. And
It's
it's
still younger than me, though.
I guess so. you know, it's like my kids. It's time for them to take over and to do these things, and then you know all these young sites and these young reporters and journalists, and they think differently, and the cloud had changed things just immensely. It took everything that we were doing and moved all that data to, well, we'll just rent that data. We'll just get an Uber. Well, we don't need to drive to the restaurant. We'll just have it delivered. And a lot of kids these days turn 16, they're like, I don't need a license yet.
I have one.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, when I turned 16, like I was there the first day
Right.
when it opened up. Oh, I need my license,
Mhm.
So people think differently. And
Yeah.
I obviously think differently than them. And it's just time for someone else to do it. I don't need to do it.
Yeah.
I don't need to be the voice of home servers and smart homes and Surface Geeks. And, it's just, I'm done. And if the biggest thing is if I'm not interested in it and I can't do it 100%,
Mhm.
then I don't want to be there. And I remember talking to you about being a Windows MVP.
Mhm.
I was like, Jim, I'm not into it. And you were like, man, I'm not either. I'm thinking about quitting. I'm so glad you said that, because I'm thinking about quitting.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of quit together.
Retiring.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
retired.
Yeah. No, I quit.
But if I can't do it full bore, Jim,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't watch it dwindle. And I
Right.
let poor homeservershow.com, the forum, I just let it dwindle, just die on the vine,
Mhm.
to where it's worthy as an archive, and that's about it.
And it will be archived at archive.org in some regards, right? Those that's still out there. But I mean, you're gonna take it, you're gonna burn it down to the ground, right? I mean, it's gonna be
I'm burning it down.
server
I'll grab
offline, all those
I'll
things.
grab the DB, and I can load that DB into this forum site at any time. If something were to change, and this company offered some kind of read only
Yeah.
kind of thing, I may throw it out there. I looked at it, Jim. I looked at, maybe I could get like a $5 GoDaddy site and throw it up as text. But I was like, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to convert a database with all these links. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. That's a lot of work. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do that work.
It brings up an interesting topic, which I've been spending some time thinking about, is the digital death of things. Like, and what does that mean? We used to create, we'd write books or whatever, and you'd find them in old bookstores or whatever. Now everything has the potential to survive, although does it? I mean, you're going to shut off the server, and there's going to be some things on archive.org, but eventually that stuff will kind of go away, never to be seen again.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't find it at a used bookstore. There won't be like an old computer database store, like where you go back to, oh, here's the old home server show forums database that I could go back through, right? Unless somebody archives that in some way. But I think sometimes when you and I were creating these things, we thought they'd be around forever, right? I mean, you just don't think about the digital death.
Oh, I never even thought of the end. I was like, I'm just doing it. I never thought of it. Hey, when am I going to turn this thing off?
Yeah. Well, it didn't hit me until I was, I have a broken link checker on my site. And so every week when I go to post the podcast, I see, oh, there's 18 broken links. And so you start going back through and serve the home when that went offline. We got served. that one offline, right? You start seeing these
Mm-hmm.
sites that, and oh, dude, when you take your site offline on the 15th,
You're gonna get so much Google tax. It's gonna be awful. A
oh my
lot of
God.
sites are. A lot
Oh
of
my,
sites are.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
Reddit
you're gonna,
is there's a lot of backlinks to Reddit and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You're gonna break a lot of links for me. I mean, I
Yeah.
just have a ton from the early days. I have a ton of links out
Yeah.
there. So
Sorry.
no, no worries. I've got some quick ways to go through it. But do you think, you mentioned things change and maybe time for a younger generation? Yet I'm thinking, I mean, I'm just starting to get into this VR space, and I think this is the next, when I say the next wave, that sounds bigger than it actually is. It's the next stream, maybe is a better way to say it. Wave seems a little too big. Do you think? I mean, there's still a lot of tech ahead of us, and I don't think age wipes us out in any way. Do you think there's some other things out there to get excited about?
Oh, there's always gonna be some. I mean, there's always something, right? For us to geek out on. And I still do, Jim. Don't get me wrong. I still love my tech and I buy tech a little bit. There'll always be something out there for you, Jim. It just depends on how much you want to grab that and convert that to conversations, right?
Mhm, mhm.
What is conversational? Is or is it going to be one way on a podcast, where people listen to you, you know, you're the master of all these headsets and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
PC gear to run it and all the things you have to do, software, new programs. There's, I mean, that's a show right there. You could go on and on and on about that. But it's, I tell my wife, there's certain kind of people that own one of two things, an airplane or a horse. If you own an airplane or a horse, that is your life.
uh-huh.
That is all you do is that airplane or a horse. That is all you do. And when it was that server, what, look at that little toaster guy right back
Is that a
there.
470
That
back
is an
there?
EX470 sitting there doing nothing. It still
Lo-
works, Jim. It still has drive
Dude,
stick.
I hear Zadler in my ears when we said
Love that box. That
470.
box made me. I love that box. But back when that came out, that was what I decided. This is my airplane. This is my horse. And yeah, I ran it for 10 years. So I did that for 10 years. Now, it evolved into a home build. It evolved to a server. It evolved to a Synology. It evolved to like 6 Synologies. And but I, I'm not I'm not ready to take on anything like that. But you know, maybe you are, Jim. Maybe you've got a VR podcast in you.
I don't think so. Just to
No?
be honest, in the soul searching that I've done over this since losing Uyghur and kind of thinking through this, I what I realize is I just get excited about talking to people. I'm curious. I love
Mhm.
asking questions. I love having a conversation. And, excuse my language, but I don't give a shit if anybody listens to it or not. I just like
Mhm.
doing this. And I had kind of felt like I got sucked into what you're talking about, where I have to have a niche, or I've got to have a thing I'm the expert on. I'm not the expert on anything.
And yeah, neither was I. Yeah.
I love variety. I love community. I love helping people where I can and helping other people help other people. And I don't know why I got so confused that I guess maybe I felt like I had to get into a spot where I need to help people. And no, I don't. I can have Aaron Lawrence on one week and we can talk about gadgets, and I can have you on. We can talk about CNCs, and I can have, Dave Hamilton on. We can talk about Macs. And I enjoy that. It makes me a better person doing that. I got kind of wrapped around the axle on that, thinking it had to be something different because everybody's chasing numbers, right?
Yeah.
At this point, like, oh yeah, if you don't have a 10,000 downloads or whatever, and you're kind of like, I don't need it. What like you enjoy. This is why I asked you that question about the woodworking. You enjoy being in the garage making man glitter,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, there's nothing better than chips flying, and you get a piece of wood and the texture of it, and you fashion it just right, and you set it down. You put some whiskey glasses on it, and you go, "Damn,
Mm-hmm.
that looks good,"
I
right?
made that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Don't get
and
me
it's just
wrong. I have a 55-inch TV out there that I watch football on. I've got the ALEXA and I've got a Google screen. Man, you will catch me out there rocking some Def Leppard. And when I make a piece of furniture for someone and I give it to them and I tell them, I was like, this was made with like a heavy dose of Sammy Hagar. And if this piece of furniture hears some of that music, I think things are going to happen. I mean,
Mhm.
so I'll latch on to something and,
Yeah.
and build.
Well, there's just so many opinions out there of like, you should do this, or you should do it that way, or you should, right? As far as doing these kinds of things. And I'm like, no, I'm actually no, just do it the way you want to do it. Do it the way that makes you happy. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you want to dabble in some things, dabble. You know,
Yeah,
I
and
hear from
people
a
have
lot of
turned it
guys.
into professions. You have to be a pro YouTuber, right? You have to
Yeah.
have that button behind you that says you have 100,000 subscribers, and you have to have
Yeah, whatever.
sponsors, and
Right.
they're chasing all those numbers, and people are people are now doing it for that, and
Oh, for sure.
it's weary. I just can't do that. I cannot
Well,
allot the time that it takes in order to chase that.
what I see on YouTube, the cycle of a YouTuber, right, is I see them get started and they get excited. It's something they're really excited about, right? And they're doing some stuff and they're out there every day and they're really doing it. And then they start listening to their listeners. They start reading the comments,
No,
and
I never read the
everybody's got everybody's got an opinion, and everybody, oh, you should have done that this way.
Yeah,
You should have done that way. And to be safe, you should make sure you're using these things so you don't get your thumb cut off,
I
right?
could make that too if I had those tools.
Yeah, right. You're privileged and you've got that and you all right. And then with almost every single YouTuber I watch, one of their listeners shows up uninvited, and then they get freaked out by it, and then they start closing in, right? They kind of start protecting themselves, and they stop being themselves, and some of the things that made them great, they stop doing because they're afraid, or they're afraid of all the negative comments. God, I can't tell you how many YouTubers I say, or I hear say, well, I saw this 1,000 times in the comments and I'll say it one more time. And you're like, man, you are just absolutely burdened by your audience.
Mhm.
And I just, kind of makes me sad in some ways that they feel beholden to, they get into a system where like, oh man, this YouTube crack is pretty good and it's going to go away if I don't conform.
Right.
And I guess I was starting to feel that way, and not that way because I've never had that kind of success, just to be honest, right? But it was one of those things. It's like, no, I think I'm just going to keep doing that because I love doing this. I love showing up on Thursday nights and having conversations with people like I'm having with you. We've got a great community, and it's just a ton of fun to do it. And
Yeah.
why wouldn't I?
And
You know?
from day one, my Thursday night is still never the same.
Yeah.
Like my week is never the same. There's always something different. There's always something going on. It's just I I don't want to keep up with it. I can't. I don't want to
Right. Right.
mold myself into, oh no, I have to go upstairs. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and then I turned it into reset, and then I got into that mode where, okay, I'm by myself. I
Yeah.
wanted to do this by myself, and now I'm the breadwinner. I gotta create a topic. I gotta get it recorded.
Yep.
Gotta make it interesting. I've got to, you know. So it
But
was.
I think it's good, Dave, that all things have a natural conclusion. Who knows how many? I mean, we're on 555, but who knows how many of these I'll do? Maybe I like showing up on Thursday nights. I love now, as I have these conversations. I mean, I was really looking forward to spending time with you tonight for the last couple weeks. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I was too. I listened last week live. I was like, I wonder if he's going to say my name. And then you did. And I'm like, woo! I heard my name on a podcast.
Oh, yeah. No, it's still that kind of, and it's just a blast to do it. Well, anyways, good for you. I think there's in a lot of, and we'll kind of, I'll kind of end it on this, not the podcast, but in the segment on this is, not all things are meant to go on forever. And it's good. Sometimes it's good to kind of close it up. And there's plenty of other things to move on to. There's plenty of other things to do. And I'm not going to, you're making some decisions. You're closing up Home Server Show forums. I think it's great. We had a great time in there. But certainly the home server has changed drastically. Although I told you in pre-show, I am considering so I think I may build an unraid box and get all of my data back in house. It's been up in the cloud, but I think I may bring it back and move it here. One, because I've got the space, but two, because I want to geek around with it. I want to kind of mess with it and do some different things. Been doing a lot of home automation and been doing like a lot of stuff with Home Assistant. You kind of mentioned a little bit, but give us an update on the McCabe man cave, so to speak.
Hold on.
What are you running these days?
Hold on to yourself.
All right.
I too have run into issues where I think this cloud it's easy to do, but I have probably 40 gigs of video I need to get off OneDrive right now, and I'm having the dangest time getting it down because it will not transfer. I can choose first I was just like, oh, download. I was like, okay, well, that failed. I picked half of it. Download. That failed. I was like, okay, just give me a third of it, So, I mean, I see a point somewhere in my future where I will need to address this. I need more hard drives, a bigger Synology, and yeah, I'm gonna have to address this, Jim. So it doesn't stop for me, but the current situation, and I know that I'm going to freak out some people, but I had my personal phone. I had a phone for over 2.5 years. The same phone.
What?
For over 2.5 years.
How does that happen?
I don't know. I was just
you were changing phones every 6 months during
6
reset.
months. I was very comfortable with this phone. And I just recently got a brand new one. I'm in the iPhone 14 Pro. So it's brand new. And I like it. I like it. But I'm never satiated. So I also have the Pixel 6a. I bought this on purpose. It was on sale.
Yeah.
And this is going to house some social media accounts for a sports team that I'm on the board for.
Oh, nice.
So I'm their social media manager. So
a good way to separate it, right?
Exactly.
A good way to, yeah.
Exactly.
Right on.
Although everybody that follows me knows that you'll never find a word about politics or church and state. I kept that out of the podcast, Jim, and I've kept that out of my social media life. Now, that doesn't mean I want to hit reply and just go, you are the stupidest human on the earth. I want to reply to that almost daily, but I don't. So I do have the phones, and everybody will also remember that I used to change Wi-Fi in this house almost like underwear, right? Mm-hmm. Tons of Wi-Fi. I had the what do you call it? The Ubiquity system, the commercial system for many years. Probably 5 years. I think as long as I've been in this house, Jim. Excuse me. And that's been a long time. Mm-hmm. I just recently pulled that out because it was aging. And it gets old. And that was another thorn in my side, Jim. Ubiquity, it needs babysitting. You have to just keep looking at it and upgrading it. And you need a server for it. And so I was like, I'm done with that. it aged itself out. I needed Wi-Fi 6, and so I'm trying Eero now. This will be my second Eero system.
Yeah.
I bought them when they were
Yeah.
brand new. Remember, I was the original that went $500 for a router.
Weren't they whatever, one of those, I want to say fire starter, but that's not the right
Like a Kickstarter. They ran their own Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
So successful with that. My only issue with it is I really miss being able to run multiple SSIDs, because I could run a dedicated 2 gigahertz SSID for all my outlying cameras and Ring doorbells and all those things that needed that signal out there. And with Eero, you cannot do multiple SSIDs. They have the ability where you can turn 5G off and then pair your 2 gigahertz stuff and then turn 5G back on, but it's a pain in the butt. But I do enjoy just having it on the phone and being able to, if I'm mad at my child, I can turn his computer off, right?
Yes. Yeah. I remember those days.
Don't do a whole lot of that, but I always threaten it.
Yeah.
So beyond that, Jim, I'm still running Synologies. I still have 3 where they're all in 3 different parts of the house. They all copy data back and forth. I still run multiple clouds, Amazon, OneDrive, Google. I pay for extra OneDrive. I pay for extra Amazon. I pay for extra Google. I have a ton of Google storage space. I probably overpay, but it's one of those things where it's like, you're almost out of space. I'm like, just take my money. Stop bothering me.
Yeah.
So it's easy just to hit the upgrade button.
Yeah. Well, obviously, because I mean, sometimes bringing all that data back is a problem. If you're on a data cap plan, like, you got to kind of plan for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yes.
that's one of those things, right?
That's one thing where I was very lucky in the fact I was on a data cap plan. In fact, when we were running Bitcoin, and man, the Wi-Fi in the tech has lit up the chat room, has it not?
Yeah, for sure. They woke up.
Both of us are looking at the chat, like watching it scroll by, and like, oh my God. But when we were running, what was the hard drive storage Bitcoin thingy that we were running? Storage.
Storage storage. And
when I was running that, the cable company was really pissed at me.
Saya, I think, was the other one.
Yeah, Saya Coin. Yeah, because I was transferring some data. Yeah. But we had a fiber company roll through here called Metronet, and it's fiber to the curb. So I watched them terminate fiber right in my basement, and they lit it up, and there's no caps. And I was like, God bless you. So, and for the first year, it was like $40 a month. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. No, it is. It's funny how we go back and forth on this. We with home storage, where you push it all up, and then you're thinking, well, maybe, and we've certainly seen, Amazon's getting out of the space, and we've watched things like Crash Plan remove their unlimited plan, and some of those things. And so,
my God, I haven't heard that word in probably 5-6 years. Crash Plan.
Yeah, Crash Plan. I mean,
it used to be just Crash Plan crazy.
Some folks who's still pretty bitter about that, but
I use talking to Bust out there in the chat. I use Office 365 as well, and when you sign up for that, you get 5 accounts of OneDrive, and each account can be 1 terabyte.
Yeah,
is that
1
that
terabyte.
right?
Yeah, and I think you can buy as much as 2, but
and you can buy extra. Well, I have the Synology. I tested it and it worked. It will log into multiple OneDrive accounts. So I just
started spreading it around.
Spread it around.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, as I bought this new computer, my old kind of the one I podcasted on, the one I bought when we were on Home Service Show doing things just so I'd have a better rig, will probably become an Unraid server. And for the sole purpose of like, I've been using this Muro data box, but it's not going to last forever. And I'm kind of thinking like, I better get a local copy of this stuff because that's,
Mhm.
I have 700 gig of it local, but the rest is cached and the rest of it's, it brings it back if it needs it, which is super cool for a business.
Yeah.
You know, so it's funny how we go around again to that. And here I am thinking about, okay, I could probably with Unraid, I could probably set up a pretty nice 12 terabyte system. That would be good enough for me. I'll have to bring all that stuff back from Crash Planet. Simple. Of course, that now I have to think about, I'm on the, bringing it back. It's going to be a
Transferring it
one-time
back.
hit,
Yeah, exactly
right?
the thing that I ran into.
Yeah.
I just have folder that I don't sync with the Synology. Everything else I sync. Like if I send a photo to OneDrive,
Mhm.
my Synology goes, "Oh, new photo." It grabs it and brings it down, which I love that. I just love having it in multiple places. But again, you're into that. I built a PC and put a gaming video card in it so I could run the new Halo, and then all of a sudden my 15-year-old's looking at me from it going, "This is my PC," so he's using it. So it left me. It's gone. And I don't know. I might build a new one at some point for storage. I wanted to cobble together some parts around here, but I have aging hard drives, and I too am worried that I need to get a couple more USB drives and at least have some archive data, in
Mhm.
the closet just in case,
Yeah.
maybe the fourth and fifth copy of this data. I don't know why I
Well,
worry about it so much.
but we've made a lot of data. I go back and think, I could, if I needed to, go pull the original copy of the very first Home Gadget Geeks. You know,
Hmm.
I think I could get to it. I haven't
Yeah.
tested it in a while. Maybe I should test that out. Why I would need that, I don't know, but it is something I've created. It's both.
Yeah.
As I lost my dad about 8 years ago, and I lost my mom just this year. You start thinking about those things, right? Those things that they pass on, right? And I was just talking to my daughter about this, and I was like, "You're not gonna really want anything, right, that I've made? You're not." She was like, "No, actually, we do," which surprised me a little bit. But God, there was like my dad had newspapers from famous events that had happened.
Hmm.
And I was just thinking, we took pictures of them and then, moved them on. And you think he thought those were going to be things that we would cherish and treasure.
Right.
I don't necessarily keep data thinking, but certainly, Dave, it's really hard to get rid of pictures of your kids, right? I mean, it isn't that like that's a cardinal sin to delete a picture, even if it's a bad picture of your
Yes,
kids.
absolutely. Jim, we find ourselves. I kind of settled in on the Amazon household stuff, and I have a Fire TV at my TV, and when it goes into screen saver mode, it will grab photos from the archive,
Yeah.
and it will just come up with some stuff, and we will all just be standing there watching it, and we'll be there for 10-15 minutes until it finally goes into power save mode, and it's the most wonderful thing ever. I'm so thankful that we have those digital photos, because
Yeah.
if they were physical photos, they would be in a box. You're like, hey, you remember that one time? Yeah, well, that's in box over. No, they come up constantly, and it's so wonderful to see those kids. You guys come up.
Yeah.
I have meetup pictures that every September the ALEXA starts rotating, meetup photos and all those Surface Geek things that we did. And when you and
Surface.
I would go to Redmond to
Oh,
Microsoft, and
yeah.
all those
Such a
photos
good time.
show up, and
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for that. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I guess I make all these backups in hopes that my children will take them at some point and have them, what's going to happen to them in 40 years? I'm not going to care, but I would still like them to be able to see their photos of them on their first bicycle, which are digital.
Yeah, that's
a crazy question to try to answer.
No, it is, and it's different for everybody, but it's one of those things. I still have a shoebox of things that I need to digitalize, and that I look through
your
some
military
of them,
days. I bet my military days are in a shoebox.
Yeah, no, for sure, they're in a photo album.
Yeah,
and you're like, I kind of think, I ought to drop 5 bills on one of those scanners and just get them. But then, I don't know. I sometimes, we got all these things from my parents, and listen, my mom this was crazy. My mom had boxes she'd hidden from us of pictures. We didn't even know they existed. She had stuff. I don't know how we moved her twice and we never saw these things. But after she passed, these boxes came out, and I drove out to my brother's place. We spent 3 or 4 days going through these and laughing and having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, it was like, well, who's going to take these and digitalize them? And everybody was like, yeah, just get rid of them, kind of thing. And it was, I don't know, it was, maybe we'll regret that decision, but it is we're in this transitionary, I shouldn't say transitionary, but we're in this place where digital can live on, but it's a commitment to keep it going.
It is.
Right? I mean, you got to have it someplace. You got to have it backed up. I mean, you and I have both lost things that the missus was like, where is that?
Yeah. I don't know what episode that was, but I remember losing a year. It was 2009 that I lost. Like, where in the heck is 2009? And it was because of that service, that backup service. It was an origami bird animal. I can't remember the name of that service.
Oh yeah.
And when you got a referral, you would get another 5 gigs free. And I was up to like terabytes, because of all my referrals.
Man, who was that?
And I created all these pointers to the data in order to get it sent up. And then somehow I deleted a pointer, which came back and nuked my original folder. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and bust out reminds us, printed photos don't last forever either. And although, I mean, man, we were looking at pictures from the 30s.
Yes, I have that box too. I tell you, I recently was given a box of my grandfather in World War II. Photos of him in uniform. I'm like, oh, that's just classic.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I'm not going to digitize them. My kids don't want them digitized. I'm not going to put them as their background on their phone.
No.
But every decade or two, they may run into it and be like, oh, that's my dad's grandfather. He was in World War II. Come look at this, son. They may do that. So.
Yeah, those, and a generation away, like my kids don't care as much about their grandparents as they care about us. And I didn't care that much about my grandparents as I did about my parents. And that second generation, even beyond that's even worse. I mean, it completely goes away of even caring in some ways. Now, you get some kids who are like, oh no, I get into genealogy or I want to figure these things out. But
of course,
I think the majority are kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just stuff just disappears that way.
Yeah.
And I think we run the same gamut on the digital as we think we're saving these things digitally, but like they're going to last longer. I'm not sure they are, Dave. You've got a whole archive of stuff. At some point you may pass those on to your kids, right? Hey, here's the files, and they're going to put them somewhere, but their kids are going to be like, oh, that's grandma and grandpa. How sweet. But they're not going to care for the most part, right? They're not going to put them on their hard drives or
nobody's going to pay to print every single one of those on a 4x6.
No, it's a real dilemma. It's a real dilemma. And yet we spent an enormous amount of time and effort and money on building these servers out to save this data, right? It's just crazy.
Well, yeah, we made a life out of it for a decade there.
Yeah. No, it's just crazy. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. It's just when you start thinking about this and you think about the longevity of it, you kind of start thinking, yeah, I wonder how long. I guess the key to this is like just do it and let the chips fall. Like cuz you can't get it if you don't have it.
Right.
But
You can't control it when you're
yeah,
gone.
yeah,
All you can
right,
do is
right.
just like raising them, you know. You
Yeah.
can impart your wisdom to them, but
Yeah.
they got to take it and
Yeah.
run with it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, one last question
Shoot.
before we get out of here. Where are you in this whole Tesla electric vehicles? Like, what? I don't think you and I have ever really talked
Mm.
about the vehicle thing. Where are you at with that these days?
I have very few requirements, Jim. But one of them is a big one. It has to hold a 4x8 sheet of plywood, whatever it is.
Full circle of the podcast here tonight.
So I have a Suburban. I have a 21. I have a 2021 Suburban. I had a 2016 Suburban before that. And I can fit a full-size sheet of plywood in it, and I can close the back gate. So that is my truck. I love electric vehicles. I like where they're going with the pickups, but they're shrinking the storage, right? They're getting like IKEA size.
Yeah.
You know, I still need that. I need that Silverado size. I should drive an electric vehicle, Jim. One vehicle in probably every family should be electric, because I mean, I just tootle around town, you know, and a decent range, and I'd be fine. And then have a nice car that gets a good gas mileage that you can take on vacation, or
Yeah.
you drive across a state to go to a ball game or something, you know, so just something simple like that. But I'm in, but I've never owned one.
Yeah. Any
Never owned one.
plans? Are you thinking like it's the next one going to be?
Not yet. I
Okay.
mean, not really. We just invested in some property. So I've got pole barn on my brain. But Jim, if you
Nice.
bought me a
Nice.
Rivian,
Yeah.
either one of the Rivians, if you bought me
Okay.
one of those,
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
take it. I would
Okay.
take very good care
Okay.
of it.
Okay. That's a whole YouTube channel too, is the
That's a
pole
good one.
barn setting up.
That's a good
Like,
one.
are you going to take your woodworking out to the property?
Oh
Is that
yeah,
what?
I've drawn
Okay.
my
Yeah.
dream shop, how I want to lay it out, and
Oh my
we're
God.
not ready, Jim. We're
Okay.
just not ready.
Okay.
You know, housing is nuts. Wood
Yeah.
price is nuts.
Yeah.
Labor is nuts.
Mhm.
It's just crazy. And I've also I've switched gears. I have 2 classic cars in my garage.
Oh, nice. What do you have? Can you
That
say?
oh
Or
yeah. I have a very odd one that some of your guys may know. It's a 56 Continental Mark II.
wow.
It is it was a hand-built car. There were 3,000 made. So don't type Lincoln. It's a Continental. 56 Continental MK2 II.
Oh, wow.
And you'll find it. The hood
That's a beautiful vehicle.
is 8 foot long.
Yeah. Yes.
This thing weighs so much. And she's a driver, but she's not running real good. So
Okay.
I've taken the family out around the block, and I thought I was going to have to drive this thing in reverse home. It drives better in reverse than it does forward.
What
So
color is it?
it's black, and it's
Okay.
got a maroon interior,
Let's
and it's a
see if
convertible convert. So it's been chopped. So it's a permanent parade car. And there she is. That's the maroon one.
yeah. That's a beautiful car.
It's phenomenal looking.
Yeah.
And I get mad at it, Jim, and I threaten to sell it. And I know my wife doesn't want to sell it. So if I had the
Really?
room to work
Really?
on it, oh, I get mad. Jim, you can't go to AutoZone and buy a freaking part for this car.
No. You're searching the country.
You have to scour the country. And Jim, there were 3,000 of these made, and like 2/3 of those 3,000s are parts cars.
Yeah.
So anything I do to it it's tough. It's tough to do. And there are websites.
You're hunting things. So this was Continental before they were acquired by Lincoln, right?
Yes. There are Ford parts in it originally.
Right.
From the factory. There are Ford, like the generator switch box for it's got a big Ford, motor company sticker on it. It's really neat.
It's just a beautiful car.
Yeah, that side profile is really nice.
That is really, good luck finding those tires.
Yeah, the tires are the least of my worries. God.
Oh my God.
So
that's one. What's the other one?
The other one is kind of more down my style. It's a 65 Chevelle Malibu trim.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a coupe. It's 4-speed. So it is it's a nice car. It is a really nice car. It's got a 327 in it. And it's been fun.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful. Do you like working on them?
I do.
Okay.
I like being confident when I work on them.
Yeah.
Like that 56.
Yeah.
It's just so old.
Yeah.
It's so old. I had to redo the master cylinder and all the brakes, and I was just, you just get wrenching and you're like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah. It's a special skill.
Yeah.
And it requires, you got to get old timers. Like, hey, how did you do this back in the day?
Yes.
How is this done? You got to find some wrench heads who are like, oh yeah, you need to do this and that. And
yes, I've built that network. I have it. I am listed on their official database as the owner of my, VIN. So
yeah. Well, so are you going to try to restore them to original? Is that the goal? Or are you going to try and tweak them a little bit?
I do not have the ability to restore that 56. I know my limitations.
Mm-hmm.
I can get her driving, Jim. I can wrench.
It's a paint job pretty good to begin with?
It needs paint, but it's still 5 feet away. She looks good.
Okay. So from a parade standpoint, you could still put it in a parade. Yeah. Okay.
The problem is I couldn't put it in the parade. We had to drive another car. She doesn't like to go slow.
Okay.
So, and the generator doesn't kick in charging the battery. It's not an alternator. It's a generator. It doesn't kick in until like 2,000 RPMs. Well, by the time this car is 2,000 RPMs, you're trucking down the road. And it's hard to throw candy at kids when you're going 35 miles an hour.
You almost need like an alternate engine in there to go the slow for the parade stuff, right?
Something electric.
There's enough room.
There's plenty.
Enough, you could put a electric engine in the trunk,
like a trolling motor. That's what I need.
It just ran the back wheels, but it's rear wheel drive, so you would that wouldn't necessarily work really well. But that's
a beast.
Cool. Yeah, dude, that's a beautiful car. There's not a lot of those left.
It's a beast.
Yeah, there's a lot. Much like old photos. There's not a lot of those left. So it's you definitely you got your hands full. Yeah. I've seen some of those guys start tricking those out where they leave it so it looks original, but then it's got all this tech.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Physically, I am not able to do that. That is, I've seen those cars, and it would be wonderful to jump into one of those that you made. And it's just pristine. Yeah. I'm not at that level, Jim. I really am not. I tell you though, last year I was digging through an auction to buy some old hand planes. We were at Texas Roadhouse, and I won my auction for that hand plane, and I was just geeked out. So now I got to drive an hour and pick up these old these old Stanley hand planes, refurb them. The next item up for bid was a snowmobile. And my wife got my phone and bought a snowmobile for $170. So it sat in the garage the whole summer, almost all winter. And then the forecast guy said, okay, next week we're having that big snowstorm, 12 inches. Everybody get ready. I'm like, crap, I better get to work on that snowmobile. Well, it took me a while and took me a couple of parts, but I got it running and we had a blast. I'm pretty sure I got turned into the HOA because I was
not a lot of those
not a lot of
going
snowmobiles in my neighborhood in Indiana.
You're not in Wisconsin anymore.
No, but it was fun.
No. Well, that's
cool. So I can wrench. I just
not
at the level I would like to be.
No, right on.
I can wrench a little,
and it takes a special skill for those older cars. It takes a real special
painting
skill.
and No, I don't have that skill.
But Bust Out says he can't drive 55, and that thing, yes, it's old, but like those cars were not necessarily built for speed either. They have a sweet spot probably between 45 and 65. You go too fast. I mean, they have no suspensions. They didn't really know how to build suspensions yet.
I tell you, when I was just driving that car to trailer at home, and it was just a phenomenal feeling, putzing down the little back roads. With that big steering wheel, that big old, just, throwing your arm across the top of that steering wheel or your arm on the side, and everybody turns their head. They're like, hey,
did the wheel shimmy though a little bit as you went faster?
I don't even remember. Okay. I just remember the smile plastered on my face. I don't even remember. It could have been dragging the back wheels. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Those old cars tend to shimmy. You get too fast. They just weren't built for speed, right? In a lot of in a lot of cases. So that always made me. I drove a couple classics and they go fast, and you'd be like, oh, okay, this is good enough. This is good enough. Bust Out also says maybe have a horse pull it for the parade. So.
Horses and airplanes. Bust Out. Horses and airplanes. You won't catch me near them.
Dave, always great to hang out with you. We should probably do this a little more often than once a year, but
it was fun. Put me in your rotation.
Yeah, no, I will definitely. We'll get you back here. Maybe late spring, get you back in, and I'd love to come out and for the weekend and have some CNC.
Hey, just bring a bunch the bed and breakfast is always open.
Yeah, no, I know. It'd be great to. It's just the 12-hour drive. I was coming back from DC, and I decided, this was during the pandemic. I decided to drive DC to Omaha in one day, which, by the way, bad idea. Bad idea.
You should have stopped.
It's like 18 hours. Yeah. Well, I was coming through Indianapolis at like 4 p.m, and I was thinking, shoot, I used to leave here at like 8 a.m. and get home in a decent hour. Like this is going to be a long drive. So, that was basically 2 of those trips. But it would be good to stop by and burn some sticks and do some stuff in the CNC.
Let's do it. Let's have the old admins of Home Server Show. We'll get Chris, we'll get Scoon, we'll get Dwayne, we'll get you, and we'll just have a meetup.
Dwayne, I got to get him back on the show too. He reached out to me a while ago, and then I said, hey, and then we never got a date. So that's a good name. Well, Dave, thanks for jumping in. Always great. Good to hang out with you.
Love your listeners.
Yeah, and they love you. There were a couple comments. I think Bust Out said he needed to come out and just hear your voice. So
good.
Maybe if we just have you on every once in a while.
We'll throw all my links in the bottom. I still do a YouTube every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of fun with my Instagram. I'll throw reels out there. So
yeah, do me a favor. Shoot me a note with all the links you want to include.
I'll do it. Yeah, everybody just follow up, and I'll follow you back, and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, Bust Out says road trip all the way to meetup sounds fun. Bust Out, that'd be a little long of a road trip for you, my friend. So that's a That's a long one. Well, a couple reminders on the way out here. One, if you were one of those home service show forums folks and you want to join us in our Discord, which is kind of the same thing, a lot of the same people are there. Schoonover is there still posting deals, right? Some of those kinds of things. Some of the same characters are in that group. You can head over theaverageguy.tv/Discord if you want to jump in there and get that done. A super nice group. We run it the same way Dave ran the home service show forums, which is be nice and don't be a dick. So that was kind of the two things we did with that. Leave me a message, homegadgetgeeks.com, if you've got something you want to say on the show. And of course, if you want to contact me, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Then of course, Home Gadget Geeks, powered by Maple Grove Partners, get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and trust. And of course, Christian. Check it out. Plans start as little as $10 a month. Maple Grove Partners.com. We'll be back live next week. Erin Lawrence, I mentioned her a little bit earlier. She's coming on to talk she has been picking up speed on her site and reviewing some super cool stuff. I mean, she is the epitome, Dave, when you talk about someone who's in the gadget space doing gadget stuff.
She's pretty intense. She's got it going on.
She does.
I'm gonna miss that. I am jealous a little bit. I would love to go back to CES someday, but I'm gonna miss the gadgets. But I like listening to Erin tackle all these things. In fact, I frequently buy from her recommendations. So just tell her I said, hey.
I've heard from several of you that you do that as well. So good stuff. Last night I was on thinkcomputers.org. I was on their podcast. And of course, Bob and Ryan have been on the show before. They're doing a bang up job. They will be at CES. Dave, they're the two young guys who've taken over, what we used to do when we went out there. Now they're doing that. So when you're talking, in the show, you're like, yeah, it's time for the younger guys to do this. Yeah, that's Bob and Ryan over there at thinkcomputers.org. And we had a fun show last night at the end. We talked about I should have done this with you. What do you want for Christmas? What's a good stocking stuffer, tech related? If money is no object, what would you buy tech related? And then one non-related tech item. Let me ask you, Dave.
I've got it. I'm ready.
What do you got? Money's no object. What are you buying?
A saw stop.
A what?
A table saw with flesh sensing technology. Have you seen these, Jim?
No.
Oh my gosh. No. Hang on.
Okay.
Let me get the mic back here. So there is a table saw with a 10-inch blade called Saw Stop. Just go to sawstop.com. They're pretty famous for their flesh sensing technology. If you put your finger on it, it throws a shard of aluminum into the blade and it drops the blade down and you'll have a little nick. You'll have a little Band-Aid, but you'll still have your thumb. It's amazing technology.
I think I've seen those where they put hot dogs.
They put the hot dogs through it. So that's my money is no object.
Okay.
So we're only talking about $4,000.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for a Rivian,
Well, we as we were talking about these, if money was no objects, I went with the 55-inch curved monitors that came out at CES last year. And they're like, I don't know, were they $4,000, $3,000? So similar to your
you didn't break the bank.
But I'd want
attainable.
I would want three.
Okay.
Right. One in the middle and two on the sides. And I'm a monitor hound.
Immersive. Yes.
I love monitors. Yeah, I just can't get enough of them. So that's what we talked about. All that good and more. thinkcomputers.org. Head out there right now. Make sure you subscribe to those guys. And they are carrying on the mantra. They're faithful every single week. Great content, great reviews. They're doing some great stuff. Check that out. Ryan is in the chat room right now. Ryan, thanks for having me on. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern out here at theaverageguy.tv/live for just some awesome conversation. We appreciate you guys either listening on the podcast or listening live. Thanks for coming out tonight. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. I did see a whole truckload, Dave, of Rivians here in Omaha. I like come in and I thought,
I guess they're starting to deliver more. They've been having the trouble. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I saw it was like a whole car carrier. And I was like,
nice.
Oh, that's what they look like. I mean, I'll never I put money down on that Tesla truck, but
Right.
I'm kind of glad one, I couldn't have ever bought it because it never came out.
Yeah.
But two, I'm kind of glad, I would have spent 50 on that, maybe a little bit more. I spent a little less than 30 on my Legacy, and I like it just as much. So it's it has been a good little car. Chat room, thanks for coming out tonight. We're going to let you guys go. We'll see you next week with Aaron Lawrence, and that'll be a fun time as well. Thanks for coming out. Bust Out, good to see you. Ryan, thanks for joining us tonight. I know you almost never can, but I appreciate you doing that. Joe, good to see you. Brian, thanks for jumping in. Tony was out there a little bit earlier, still maybe out there. Tony, thanks for jumping in as well. I'm surprised that we didn't see Schoonover tonight. That was kind of a shock that Kevin Schoonover didn't jump in. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody. Dave, hang tight for me 1 second.